Park Ji-ho never expected his ordinary life to change on a snowy winter evening in Seoul. He sat in his home office, typing away at his computer, working on another cybersecurity report. The heating system hummed softly in the background, keeping the bitter cold outside at bay. At 34, Ji-ho lived alone in his modest two-story house, inherited from his grandmother. He liked his quiet life. His job let him work from home, and he rarely had to deal with people face to face. That was just how he liked it. The first sign that something was different came when his security system made a soft beeping sound. Ji-ho looked at his computer screen, where a small window showed the feed from his backyard camera. Through the falling snow, he saw movement near his garden shed. Probably another cat, he muttered to himself, but he kept watching. The security lights hadn't turned on yet, which was strange. They usually detected any movement. Then he saw them. Two figures huddled together in the snow. They looked like teenage girls, but something was off about them. Ji-ho squinted at the screen. In the dim light, their skin seemed to have a blue tint, and one of them appeared to be glowing. Ji-ho rubbed his eyes. He hadn't slept much lately, so maybe he was seeing things, but when he looked again, the girls were still there. One of them fell to her knees in the snow. "This is crazy," he said to himself, but he was already putting on his coat and boots. He might prefer being alone, but he wasn't heartless. He couldn't leave them out there in the freezing cold. Ji-ho grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The bitter wind hit his face immediately, and snowflakes stuck to his glasses. He walked carefully through the snow toward the garden shed. As he got closer, he could see the girls more clearly. His first thought was that they were wearing some kind of costume, but that made no sense in this weather. The taller girl held the smaller one protectively. They both had pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the darkness. The younger girl had strange patterns on her skin that gave off a soft, pulsing light. "Hello," Ji-ho called out softly, not wanting to frighten them. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The girls looked up at him with large, almond-shaped eyes that reflected light like a cat's. The taller one spoke in perfect Korean, though her voice shook with cold. "Please," she said, "we need shelter. We'll do anything. We have nowhere else to go." Ji-ho noticed they wore thin clothes that looked nothing like winter wear. No coats, no gloves, not even proper shoes. Yet their clothes seemed to be made of a material he'd never seen before, something that shifted colors slightly as they moved. "You'll freeze out here," he said. "Come inside, and we can figure things out where it's warm." The taller girl helped her sister stand. As they walked toward his house, Ji-ho noticed they left no footprints in the snow. His heart began to beat faster. These girls weren't wearing costumes. They weren't even human. Inside his house, under the bright lights, there was no doubt about it. Their blue skin had a subtle metallic sheen. Their hair, which looked black at first glance, had strands that changed color like fiber optic cables. The younger girl's markings continued to pulse with a soft light that seemed to match her breathing. "I'm Hanul," the older girl said once they were seated on his living room couch. "This is my sister, Bitna. She hesitated, looking at her sister. "We're not from Earth," Bitna said simply. Her markings glowed brighter as she spoke. Ji-ho sat down in his armchair, trying to process this. He worked in cybersecurity. He dealt with computers, not aliens. This wasn't supposed to happen in real life. Yet here they were, two alien girls in his living room, looking at him with worried expressions that seemed entirely human despite their unusual appearance. "Our parents were diplomats," Hanul explained. "They were part of a secret mission to establish first contact with Earth's governments. But there are others who don't want our people talking to Earth. They attacked our ship 3 days ago." Her voice cracked. "Our parents. They put us in an escape pod. They said to find somewhere safe and wait. We've been hiding since then," Bitna added. Her markings had dimmed to an almost invisible level. "We can't go to the authorities. The people who killed our parents have spies everywhere. We saw your house, and Haynul said you felt safe. Jaiho looked at Haynul questioningly. She touched her temple. I can sense feelings, emotions, not thoughts, she added quickly. Just general impressions. You felt kind, despite wanting to be alone. We took a chance. Jaiho sat back, letting out a long breath. He should call the police, or the military, or someone. But when he looked at these girls, he didn't see aliens. He saw two scared teenagers who had just lost their parents. Where are you from? He asked, surprising himself with how calm he felt. A planet called Neova, Haynul said. It was destroyed a few years ago by the same empire that killed our parents. We were some of the last to escape. Our people have been scattered across the galaxy. Our parents thought Earth might help us, Bitna said. Humans are younger than our species, but they said you have something special. You adapt quickly. You're creative. You don't give up. Jaiho nodded slowly, thinking. His house had 3 bedrooms. He only used one. He worked from home, so he could keep an eye on them. His neighbors minded their own business. Maybe. You can stay, he heard himself say. At least until we figure out something better. But we need to set some rules. The sisters looked at each other, then back at him. Hope seemed to light up their faces, literally, in Bitna's case, as her markings brightened considerably. First rule, Jaiho said, holding up a finger. No one can know what you are. Not yet. It's not safe. The girls nodded eagerly. You'll need to find a way to look more human when we have to go out. We can do that. Haynul said, our bodies can adjust our appearance somewhat. It takes energy, but we can look human for short periods. Second rule, Jaiho continued, you have to tell me everything. No secrets. If we're going to protect you, I need to know what we're dealing with. Of course. Haynul agreed. We'll tell you everything we can. Third rule, Jaiho said, then paused. When was the last time you ate anything? The sisters exchanged glances again. 2 days ago, Bitna admitted. We can go longer without food than humans. But Jaiho stood up. Third rule, you tell me when you're hungry, cold, sick, or need anything else. No trying to be brave or not cause trouble. Understand? They both nodded, and Jaiho saw tears in their eyes. Tears that seemed to shimmer like liquid crystal. Right then, he said, feeling suddenly awkward. Let's see what I have in the kitchen. You can tell me what your people eat while we look. As Jaiho heated up some soup and made sandwiches, the sisters told him more about their world. Their people, the Nurans, were scholars and scientists. They had advanced technology, but believed in using it peacefully. That's why they were nearly wiped out when the Empire attacked. They had few weapons to fight back with. Our parents were trying to warn Earth. Haynul explained as she watched Jaiho cook with fascination. The Empire is expanding. They'll reach this solar system eventually. Earth needs to be ready. Jaiho placed bowls of hot soup in front of them. We'll worry about galactic empires tomorrow, he said firmly. For now, eat. Then rest. You're safe here. As he watched them eat, Jaiho wondered if he was crazy for taking them in. His quiet life had just become considerably more complicated. Yet somehow, he felt he was doing the right thing. Later that night, after showing the girls to their rooms, Jaiho sat in his office again. His security report was still open on his computer, unfinished. He looked at it and laughed softly. He'd spent his career protecting computer systems from human hackers. Now he was protecting alien refugees from space empires. He opened a new document and began typing. If he was going to help these girls, he needed to plan. They would need clothes, food, cover stories. He'd have to teach them about Earth customs, technology, and culture to help them blend in. A soft knock at his office door made him turn around. Haynul stood there, looking uncertain. I just wanted to say thank you, she said quietly. Not everyone would help strangers like this, especially when they're different. Jai-ho shrugged. My grandmother used to say that a home without guests is like a body without a soul. She'd probably be happy to know her house is helping people who really need it, even if they're from another planet. Hanul smiled, a very human expression on her alien face. Your grandmother sounds wise. Good night, Mr. Park. Just Jai-ho is fine, he said. We're housemates now, after all. After she left, Jai-ho went back to his planning. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering any trace that two alien girls had ever crossed his garden. His quiet life was over, but maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. As he worked, he didn't notice that his home's security systems were running slightly better than before, or that the heating had adjusted to a more efficient setting. In their rooms, the sisters were already making small improvements to their new home, using their advanced knowledge in the only way they could right now, to help the human who had helped them. The night grew deeper, and somewhere far above the earth, other ships were moving through the darkness of space, searching. But for now, in a modest house in Seoul, 3 people from different worlds had found an unexpected connection, and perhaps the beginning of something remarkable. Jai-ho saved his document and looked out his window at the snowy night. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, he was content knowing he'd done the right thing. Sometimes the biggest adventures start with the smallest acts of kindness. And so ended the first night of what would become an extraordinary story, one that would eventually change not just 3 lives, but perhaps the future of 2 worlds. The first week of living with alien house guests taught Jai-ho many surprising things. He learned that the sisters could eat most Earth food, though they needed more salt than humans. He discovered that they loved Korean dramas and spent hours watching them to learn about Earth culture. Most importantly, he learned that having others in his house wasn't as hard as he had feared. But challenges soon appeared. One morning, Hae-nul collapsed during breakfast, holding her head in pain. There are too many voices, she whispered as Jai-ho helped her to the couch. Not words, but feelings. So many humans, all feeling so strongly. Jai-ho looked worried. Is it always like this for you? Hae-nul shook her head slowly. On Neova, our cities were smaller, and our people's minds are quieter. Earth emotions are so strong, so many all at once. Usually, I can block them out, but sometimes, like a power surge, Bitnat explained, sitting next to her sister. Too much all at once. Jai-ho thought for a moment. Wait here, he said. He went to his office and came back with noise-canceling headphones. These block sound. Maybe they can help block emotions too. Hae-nul put them on. After a few minutes, her face relaxed. It helps, she said, surprised. The material somehow dampens the emotional noise too. Thank you. But Hae-nul's telepathy wasn't the only challenge. That evening, while they were eating dinner, someone knocked on the front door. Bitna got so startled that her skin markings lit up like a Christmas tree. Quick, upstairs. Jai-ho whispered. The girls ran up as Jai-ho went to answer the door. It was Officer Kim Yu-mae from the local police station. She had a friendly smile but sharp eyes that noticed everything. Good evening, Mr. Park, she said. We're doing routine checks in the neighborhood. There have been reports of strange lights in this area. Have you noticed anything unusual? Jai-ho kept his face calm. Nothing strange here, he said. Though I did install new security lights last week. Maybe that's what people saw. Officer Kim looked past him into the house. Jai-ho's heart beat faster when he saw 3 bowls on the dinner table, but the officer just nodded. Probably that's it, she said. But call us if you see anything unusual. After she left, Jai-ho went upstairs to find the sisters. They were in Bitna's room, where the younger girl was practicing controlling her bioluminescence in front of a mirror. I'm sorry, she said when she saw Jai-ho. I'm trying to control it. It just happens when I'm surprised or scared. We need help, Jai-ho said, sitting on the bed. We can't handle all these challenges alone. The next day, Jai-ho took the sisters to see Dr. Nam Ta-wong, a veterinarian he knew from college. Ji-ho trusted him and knew he was good at keeping secrets. So, Dr. Nam said after Jai-ho explained everything, "You want me to be a doctor for aliens. They need someone who understands biology," Jai-ho said. "Someone who can help if they get sick." Dr. Nam looked at the sisters for a long time. Then he smiled. "Well, I always wanted to study exotic species. Can't get more exotic than this." Over the next few hours, Dr. Nam examined the sisters carefully. He was fascinated by their biology. Their blue skin contained tiny crystals that helped them process light for energy. Their bones were lighter than human bones, but stronger, and their brains had parts that human brains didn't have. "Fascinating," he said, looking at their test results. "Your bodies are like nothing I've ever seen, but they're having trouble adapting to Earth. The air, the gravity, the food. It's all slightly wrong for you. Can you help them?" Jai-ho asked. Dr. Nam nodded. "I can create vitamin supplements that should help, and I have some ideas about Bitna's light problem." He gave Bitna a special cream to put on her skin. "It won't stop the bioluminescence," he explained, "but it will make it less noticeable. And hey Newell, I have something for your headaches too." As they left the clinic, Jai-ho felt better. Now they had an ally who could help with medical problems. But new challenges were waiting at home. The sisters were trying hard to learn Earth customs, but sometimes they made mistakes. Once, Bitna tried to help with the laundry and put the clothes in the dishwasher because it cleans things. Another time, Hey Newell accidentally shorted out the television because she forgot that Earth electronics couldn't handle her natural electric field. But they helped in other ways. Hey Newell's telepathy warned them when neighbors were about to visit, giving them time to hide. Bitna's knowledge of advanced technology helped fix things around the house. They even improved Jai-ho's home security system using their alien knowledge. One evening, Jai-ho came home to find the sisters watching a news report about a meteor shower. "Those aren't meteors," Hey Newell said quietly. "Those are ships. They're looking for us." Jai-ho sat down between them. "Tell me about these hunters. What do they want?" The sisters looked at each other before Bitna spoke. "Before they died, our parents gave us something. Information. Knowledge that could help Earth defend itself when the Empire comes. The hunters want that information," Hey Newell added. "They'll do anything to get it. That's why we can't let anyone know what we are. Not yet." Jai-ho watched the meteors streak across the sky on TV. "Then we'll have to be more careful," he said. "But you're not alone anymore. We'll figure this out together." Later that night, Jai-ho couldn't sleep. He went downstairs for water and found Bitna in the kitchen. Her markings were glowing softly as she made tea the way he had taught her. "I made enough for two," she said, pushing a cup toward him. "Hey Newell said you were awake and worried." Jai-ho took the cup. "I'm not used to being responsible for others," he admitted. "I'm afraid I'll make a mistake that puts you in danger." Bitna's markings pulsed gently. "On our world, we have a saying. The strongest shelter is built by many hands. We're not just your responsibility, Jai-ho. We're helping each other." Jai-ho smiled. "Your people are very wise. So are humans," Bitna said. "You took in two strange aliens without hesitation. That was either very wise or very crazy." "Maybe a bit of both," Jai-ho laughed. They drank their tea in comfortable silence, two beings from different worlds finding common ground in a quiet kitchen. Outside, the fake meteor shower continued, but inside the house, they were safe. For now. The next morning, Hey Newell was teaching Jai-ho about Neovan technology, while Bitna tried to make breakfast without causing another kitchen incident. "Your computers are interesting," Hey Newell said diplomatically, looking at Jai-ho's work laptop. "But they could be better. Want me to show you how?" Before Jai-ho could answer, Bitna called from the kitchen. "Don't let her. She'll make it so advanced you'll never figure out how to check your email again." They all laughed, and Jiho realized something. His quiet, lonely house had become a home. Yes, there were challenges. Yes, there was danger. But there was also friendship, learning, and a strange new kind of family. As they ate breakfast together, only slightly burned, Jiho watched the sisters argue playfully about Earth music. They looked more relaxed now, more at home. Their alien features seemed less strange to him with each passing day. But he knew the peace wouldn't last. The hunters were getting closer. Soon, they would have to make hard choices. For now, though, they had this moment. 3 unlikely housemates sharing breakfast, sharing laughs, sharing a home. The sisters were adapting to Earth, and Jiho was adapting to them. Together, they were creating something new, a bridge between 2 worlds, built on trust, understanding, and the simple act of helping those in need. Outside, Seoul was waking up, unaware of the aliens in their midst. But inside this ordinary house, an extraordinary story was unfolding. 1 cup of tea, 1 solved problem, 1 shared laugh at a time. 1 month after the sisters arrived, Jiho noticed a new coffee shop had opened across the street. He wouldn't have thought much about it, except Hae-Nul's headaches got worse whenever she passed by it. "Something feels wrong about that place," she said one morning, watching through the window as people went in and out. "The emotions there are different, hidden." Jiho was about to respond when someone knocked on the door. Through the peephole, he saw Officer Kim Yumei. This time, she wasn't alone. A tall man in an expensive suit stood with her. "Mr. Park," Officer Kim said when he opened the door. "This is Mr. Dal's son. He's with the government. He'd like to ask you some questions." Jiho felt his heart race, but he kept his face calm. Upstairs, he knew the sisters would be hiding in their safe room, a space they had prepared for exactly this kind of situation. Dal's son's smile didn't reach his eyes. "May we come in?" Inside, Dal's son looked around the living room with too much interest. "We're investigating some unusual energy readings in this area," he said. "Have you noticed anything strange lately? Unusual lights? Strange sounds?" "No," Jiho said. "Everything's been normal." Dal's son walked to the window and looked out. "That's interesting, because our instruments show high energy readings coming from this house." He turned to Jiho. "Are you sure you're not hiding anything, Mr. Park?" Before Jiho could answer, Officer Kim spoke up. "Mr. Park is a respected member of this community," she said. "If he says everything's normal, I believe him." Dal's son smiled again, but his eyes were cold. "Of course, but we'll need to check the house. Standard procedure." "Do you have a warrant?" Officer Kim asked. Dal's son's smile disappeared. "We don't need one. This is a matter of national security." "Then I'm afraid you'll have to leave," Officer Kim said firmly. "Come back with proper papers." After they left, Jiho thanked Officer Kim. She looked at him seriously. "Be careful, Mr. Park. That man isn't from any government agency I know." That evening, Jiho called an emergency meeting with Dr. Nam at his clinic. The sisters came too, wearing special clothes that hid their alien features. "The hunters have found us," Hae-Nul said. "That coffee shop is their base, and Dal's son is their commander." Dr. Nam looked worried. "How did they track you?" "They're following our energy signatures," Bitnot explained. "All neurons give off a specific kind of energy. Usually, it's too faint to detect. But 2 of you together make a stronger signal," Jiho finished. "That's why they found this area." "We should leave," Hae-Nul said. "You've all done so much for us, but we can't put you in danger." "No," Officer Kim said, walking into the clinic. Everyone jumped in surprise. "Officer Kim." Jiho stood up quickly. "This isn't what it looks like." "Sit down, Jiho," she said. "I've known about your house guests for weeks. Security cameras don't lie, and I'm good at my job." She looked at the sisters. "Don't worry. Your secret is safe with me." "How can we trust you?" Hae-Nul asked. Officer Kim sat down. Because I've been watching that coffee shop too. They're not the only ones investigating strange things in Seoul. I work with a special police unit that monitors unusual activities. We've been tracking Dal Sun's group for months. Then you know they're not human, Bitna said. We suspected. Officer Kim nodded. But we didn't know why they were here. Now we do. She looked at the sisters. You have something they want. Something important. Hanuel touched the necklace she always wore. Our parents' research. Everything they learned about the Empire's weaknesses. Their plans. Their technology. If the hunters get that information, they'll use it to make sure Earth can't defend itself when the Empire comes. Bitna added. Jaiho stood up and began pacing. So we need a plan. We can't run. They'll track the sisters' energy signature. We can't hide forever. And we can't fight them directly. Maybe we can. Officer Kim said. Not with weapons, but with the law. Every person on Earth, human or not, has rights. If we can prove Dal Sun's group is here illegally, threatening people. But that would mean revealing the sisters' existence, Dr. Nam pointed out. Maybe it's time, Jaiho said quietly. Everyone looked at him. Think about it. The hunters are getting closer. We can't keep hiding forever. And Earth needs to know what's coming. It's too dangerous. Hanuel protested. More dangerous than letting the hunters catch you. Jaiho asked. More dangerous than leaving Earth defenseless. Before anyone could answer, Bitna's markings started glowing brightly. They're here, she whispered. Through the clinic's windows, they saw several expensive cars parking outside. Dal Sun stepped out of one, along with other men in suits. The back door, Dr. Nam said quickly. My van is there. I can. The lights went out. In the darkness, Bitna's markings cast a soft blue glow. They've cut the power, Officer Kim said, drawing her gun. They're trying to trap us. Wait, Hanuel said. She took off her necklace and pressed it into Jaiho's hands. Keep this safe, no matter what happens. I'm not leaving you, Jaiho said firmly. You have to, Bitna said. The information has to stay safe. We'll hold them off. Officer Kim grabbed Jaiho's arm. They're right. We need to go. Now. As they slipped out the back door, Jaiho looked back. In the darkness of the clinic, he saw the sisters standing together, their skin glowing with a light that grew brighter and brighter. What are they doing? Officer Kim asked as they ran to her police car. I don't know, Jaiho said. But whatever it is, I hope it works. They drove away just as a brilliant blue light filled all the windows of the clinic. Jaiho clutched the necklace tightly. Whatever happened next, he knew things would never be the same. In the rearview mirror, he saw Dal Sun's men breaking into the clinic. But instead of capturing the sisters, they stumbled back out, covering their eyes. The blue light followed them, growing brighter and brighter until Jaiho had to look away. The sisters said their people were peaceful, Officer Kim said as they drove. But maybe they have other ways to defend themselves. Jaiho looked at the necklace in his hand. It seemed to pulse with a faint light, like a heartbeat. I think they just gave us time, he said. Time to do what needs to be done. And what's that? Officer Kim asked. Jaiho took a deep breath. Time to tell the world the truth. About the sisters, about the hunters, about everything. He looked at the necklace again. It's what their parents wanted. To warn Earth, to help us prepare. As they drove through the night, Jaiho thought about how much his life had changed since that snowy evening when he found 2 alien girls in his backyard. He had wanted a quiet life, but fate had given him something else. A chance to make a difference, not just for 2 refugees, but for his entire world. Behind them, the blue light began to fade. Jaiho prayed the sisters would be okay. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let them face it alone. Sometimes the biggest adventures start with the smallest acts of kindness, but they don't end there. Sometimes they grow into something much bigger. something that could change everything. Officer Kim drove through the night while Jai-ho held the sister's necklace tightly. They needed help, and they needed it fast. Kim made some calls on her police radio, using code words Jai-ho didn't understand. An hour later, they arrived at a university building. Professor Lee Sunok was waiting for them. She was a famous scientist who studied space and alien life. Officer Kim trusted her. "Show me," Professor Lee said as soon as they entered her lab. Ji-ho handed her the necklace. The professor studied it under special equipment. "Amazing," she said. "This isn't just a necklace. It's a data storage device, far more advanced than anything we have." "Can you access the information?" Jai-ho asked. "Yes, but it will take time." She looked at Jai-ho carefully. "Where are the aliens who gave you this?" Jai-ho's heart hurt as he remembered leaving the sisters behind. "They're in trouble. We need to help them. First, we need proof," Officer Kim said. "Proof that will make everyone believe us." They worked through the night. Professor Lee connected the necklace to her computers. What they found was shocking. The necklace contained detailed information about the empire that had destroyed the sisters' homeworld. It showed their weapons, their ships, and their plans to attack Earth. But it also contained something else: ways to fight back. The sisters' parents had collected information about the empire's weaknesses. They had found ways to defend against their weapons. While they worked, Jai-ho's phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. "We are safe. Dr. Nam helped us hide. The hunters are angry. Be careful. H and B." Jai-ho smiled with relief. The sisters were okay, but they weren't safe yet. Morning came, and with it more allies. Captain Dong-hyuk arrived from the military. He had worked with Officer Kim before on strange cases. He looked at the proof they had gathered and made some calls. "This goes higher than Dal-sun," he said. "The hunters have friends in powerful places, but so do we." They made a plan. They would tell the world about the sisters and the hunters, but they would do it carefully. They needed to protect the sisters and make sure the right people heard the truth. Professor Lee called a special meeting at the university. Important scientists, military leaders, and government officials came. Even some reporters were there, though they didn't know why yet. Dal-sun came too. He walked into the meeting room looking confident. He didn't know what was coming. "Ladies and gentlemen," Professor Lee began, "we are not alone in the universe, and we are not safe." She showed them the proof from the necklace. Pictures of the Empire's ships, data about their weapons, evidence of their attacks on other worlds. The room grew very quiet. Then the door opened. Hae-nul and Bit-na walked in, with Dr. Nam beside them. They weren't hiding their alien features anymore. Bit-na's markings glowed softly, and Hae-nul stood tall and proud. Dal-sun jumped up. "Arrest them," he shouted. "They are dangerous aliens." "No," Captain Dong-hyuk said. "You are the dangerous one." He nodded to his soldiers, who moved to surround Dal-sun and his men. "We know who you really are, and what you're really doing here." "These girls came to warn us," Officer Kim added, "to help us, while you and your empire try to keep us weak and blind." Dal-sun's face changed. His human appearance flickered, showing something else underneath. "You don't understand what you're doing," he snarled. "Earth is nothing. The empire will crush you." "No," Hae-nul said. Her voice was strong and clear. "Earth is not nothing. These humans took us in when we had nowhere to go. They helped us when they didn't have to. They chose to be kind when they could have been afraid. Their weakness will be their doom," Dal-sun said. "Their kindness is their strength," Bit-na replied. Her markings pulsed with bright light. "We've lived among them. We've seen their courage, their creativity, their ability to adapt. They might be young, but they are not weak." Professor Lee stepped forward. "We've studied the data from your parents," she told the sisters. "With this knowledge, we can prepare. We can defend ourselves." "And we'll help," Hae-nul said, "if you'll let us stay." One of the government officials stood up. "These aliens saved 2 refugee children and tried to warn us about a real threat. Those aliens," he pointed at Del Sun, "tried to keep us ignorant and helpless." He looked around the room. "I think it's clear which ones we should trust." Del Sun tried to run, but the soldiers stopped him. When they touched him, his human disguise fell away completely. Everyone saw what he really was, a creature with gray skin and cold eyes. The hunters were finally exposed. In the days that followed, everything changed. The world learned about aliens, about the Empire, and about 2 brave sisters who had trusted humanity with their secrets. There was fear at first, but also hope. The sisters became official refugees under Earth's protection. Jiho legally adopted them, making their little family official. His quiet house became a home where humans and aliens worked together to prepare Earth for the future. Dr. Nam's clinic became a special medical center where he helped other alien refugees who came to Earth. Officer Kim led a new police unit that dealt with alien matters. Professor Lee worked with Haenul and Bitna to understand their advanced technology. One evening, months later, Jaho sat in his backyard with the sisters. They watched the stars come out, but they weren't afraid anymore. "Do you miss your home world?" he asked them. "Sometimes," Haenul said, "but we have a new home now." "And a new family," Bitna added. Her markings glowed with warm, happy colors. Jiho smiled. When he had found 2 alien girls in his garden that snowy night, he never imagined where it would lead. Now Earth was changing, growing stronger, preparing for the challenges ahead. And it all started because he chose to help when help was needed. "The Empire will still come," Haenul said, reading his feelings. "Let them come," Jiho replied. "Earth isn't alone anymore. And neither are you." Above them, the stars twinkled. Somewhere out there, an empire was growing, threatening worlds. But on Earth, humans and aliens were working together, proving that sometimes the strongest weapon isn't technology or power, but the simple choice to be kind. The story of 2 orphaned alien girls who needed shelter had become something bigger, a story about humanity's choice to face the future with courage, wisdom, and compassion. And in Jiho's backyard, under Earth's stars, a human and 2 aliens had found something precious, a family that crossed the boundaries of worlds. It wasn't the quiet life Jiho had planned. It was better, because sometimes the biggest adventures, the most important changes, and the greatest victories start with the smallest acts of kindness. And in those acts, humanity shows its true strength.